So this is a reflections video that I'm doing for the Together We Served website. Basically, they've got a bunch of pre-made questions on there for us to answer, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll read the question out that they gave us, and then I'll do my best to answer it. It's just something to put up and help us remember the things that we went through in our military service, and I'm very proud of the service that I did, and I made a lot of good friends, and had a lot of really interesting experiences. So here we go. The first question they have is, please describe who or what influenced your decision to join the Army. For me, it was a combination of things. I guess the person that I would say that most drove me to want to join the Army was my father, and for reasons I won't get into, we didn't get along that well, but he had been in the Army, and he served during Korea and Vietnam, and I was very proud of his service. I know they didn't get much appreciation when they came home, and they deserved a lot better than they got. The Vietnam vets especially deserved better than they got when they got home. And part of me just wanted to get away from home, to get away from the environment I was in at the time. So when I was 17, I went to a recruiting station and talked to the recruiter, and I had a buddy that had already joined up from the delayed entry program, and so I ended up doing basically the same thing. When I was 17, I talked my dad into signing for me to be able to join on the delayed entry program, and as soon as I was 18, I was out the door and headed to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And so I guess that pretty much answers the question of who influenced me the most into joining the Army. The next question that they have is whether you were in the service for several years or as a career. Please describe the direction or path you took, and what was your reason for leaving. I joined, when I signed up for the Army, I signed up for infantry right off the bat. I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. I didn't make that great of grades in school. My ASVAB score wasn't all that high, so but I didn't choose the infantry out of lack of options. I chose the infantry because that's what I wanted to be. As far as I was concerned, the infantry was the best of the best. Not knocking any of the other MOSs out there, but it's just what I wanted to be. I've always kind of, I've always been a small guy, but I've always kind of been an alpha kind of guy, and the infantry just felt like where I needed to be. I stayed in the infantry my entire career in the military, and it was not easy for me to be in the infantry. When I joined the Army, I was 119 pounds, which is exactly what I had to be to get into the Army at my height, which was 5'8". And so it kicked my butt. There's no doubt in my mind. I could never deny the fact that every road march kicked my butt. Every PT session kicked my butt, because I was just a small, tiny guy, and I'm carrying the same amount of weight as some 200-pound guy, doing the same things everybody else was, having to do all the same strenuous work that everybody else did at half of their size, and so I was proud of that. And basically the reason I got out is because I got married along the way, and she started getting tired of me being gone all the time, because you will spend a lot of time away from home if you're in the infantry. And so I got out to please my family and to be with my family more. And I got out, a couple of years after I went to war with Desert Storm and all that. So the next question is, if you participated in any military operations, including combat, humanitarian, or peacekeeping operations, please describe those which made a lasting impact on you, if life-changing, in what way? I served as a Bradley fighting vehicle gunner during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. Seeing the things we saw in combat, because we did see combat, and taking another human being's life is something that changes your life immediately. It does. You don't necessarily think about it at the time. It's usually, after everything quiets down and calms down, that you finally realize what you just did. I pulled the trigger. I took human life, and I'm not proud of that aspect of my career, but at the same time, I know that I did my job, and it wasn't a for my country thing or any of that stuff. It was for the guys in the back of my Bradley. They were sitting back there depending on me to not miss, and the dismounts didn't get a whole lot of time outside of the Bradley. They were stuck back there, and we were moving pretty fast, and my driver was amazing. That's Ron Whitehead. He's one together we served as well. Amazing driver, amazing Bradley commander, Sergeant Bruce Smith, Staff Sergeant Bruce Smith at the time. So, anybody that says it didn't change them is either full of shit or in denial, because it changes you. The fear factor of it, the adrenaline of it, it brings you closer to the guys you're with, no doubt. And I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. I don't regret it one bit. I wish that I hadn't had to pull the trigger on people. That much I do regret. But at the same time, I don't regret having gone through the experience, served my country, and took care of my buddies, and we all came home. So the next question is, did you encounter any situation during your military service when you believed that there was a possibility you might not survive? If so, please describe what happened and what was the outcome. Well, obviously I'm still here, so I survived. I think the one time that really gave me the super pucker factor was we were in Iraq, and a tank round exploded literally right in front of our Bradley. The damn tank was shooting at us. It was obvious. And it hit so close that it shook 32 tons of steel, because the Bradley's 32 tons at the time, and threw dirt and all kinds of crap up in the air, and it literally came down in our hatches, and my driver, Ron Whitehead, is just screaming over the CBC, did you guys see that? Did you see it? I was like, hell yeah, we saw it. There's no way we couldn't see it. That scared the crap out of me. Fortunately, that tank, or whatever it was, it did not fire again at us, so we were fortunate in that respect. That scared, that was the one time where I thought, man, if they shoot one more time, we're done. And fortunately they didn't. So yeah, I'm still here, and Ron's still here, and Sergeant Smith is still kicking, and so that was it, for the most part. I'm sure there was other little things that I can't remember, because that one was really stuck in the forefront of my mind when we're answering the question there. Let's see. Of all your duty stations or assignments, which one do you have the fondest memories of, and why? Which was your least favorite? I would probably say my favorite duty station that gives me the fondest memories was probably Bamberg, Germany. It was Warner Kaserne, and mostly I think that one was my favorite because, first of all, Bamberg, Germany is absolutely beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go there, go. It's gorgeous. But I think that one for me was my fondest because all my battle buddies, all the guys I went to war with, I met there. And we've carried on, we are still in contact. A large majority of us are still in contact with each other. And I talk, to my driver, every so often, and we keep in touch because we were very close. In fact, he was over at my house almost all the time when we lived in Bamberg. So yeah, he was a very, very, very close friend. And I think my least favorite would probably be Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. I did not like that place whatsoever. I don't know what it was about it, to be honest with you. I think I'm from the small town in the south, on the East Coast, so we got 4 seasons, spring, summer, winter, and fall, and in Hawaii you got 2 seasons, rainy and not, and it's always hot. So I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the place. People are wonderful. I met a lot of really good people in Hawaii, but I met some not so nice ones too. That's another story for another time. Let's see here. It says, from your entire military service, describe any memories you still reflect back on to this day. Well, obviously the war. Basic training. I mean, there's so many things that you do that it creates kind of like a roller coaster ride in your mind. You'll start thinking about this one thing, and then that will lead you to something else and something else. There's no such thing as remembering one part of your military service, because one thing leads to something else, and it all floods back. So, I mean, pretty much my entire freaking military service always comes back to me, and I think of all of it fondly, even the times it really sucked. When you think about it, you think, you think, man, it that sucked. I mean, that really, really, really sucked. But the dude next to you is going through the same crap you are, and he's thinking in his head, man, that sucked. But you did it together, and you survived it together, and that's what makes that bond between you and the guy next to you, is dealing with horrendous conditions, freezing your butt off, being soaking wet, mosquitoes, whatever the case may be, bullets flying over your head. It all creates that memory, and it always comes back. It doesn't go away. Let's see. This one says, what professional achievements are you most proud of from your military career? My CIB, Combat Infantryman's Badge. I got other awards that but I think the CIB is the most coveted award you can get as an infantryman. That means you actually served in combat. You can go your entire career and never serve in combat. You can be at war and never serve in combat. And so, to me, that one, I guess my EIB, my Expert Infantryman's badge, comes next, to be honest with you. I've got the Bronze Star. I don't know why. To this day, I still don't really know why I got that, but I'm not going to question that they gave it to me. But honestly, the other two awards mean more to me. That's just the way it is. What professional achievements are you most proud of from your military service? Coming back from a war in one piece and having all my soldiers come back from a war in one piece is the best thing could ever happen to me. That speaks for itself. I'm not even going to go on about that. That is just what it is. Making it home and making sure all my soldiers came home with me. That was it. Which individuals from your time in the military stand out as having the most positive impact on you, and why? Okay. That one's... I got a few. First of all, my driver, Ron Whitehead. He was just a great guy, and he kept such a positive attitude the entire time. No matter what we were doing, this guy always had like energy that just overflowed from him, and you wanted to be next to this guy all the time. He exuded this energy so much that he actually gave you, is almost like he energized you to get your butt back up after get knocked down or just being so tired. And you get around him and he's like, we used to feed him M&Ms through his hatch to keep him going, but man, he just never seemed to run out of energy. And he was just a fine, upstanding human being. And to this day, I adore Ron Whitehead. He's my hero. This guy got out of the military and became a freaking art teacher, and he teaches the kids to this day, respect their elders, to show some respect and thanks for veterans. I mean, the guy's just amazing. I can't say enough about him, but I don't have enough time to say as much as I'd love to say about him. He's just an amazing guy. Captain David Byther, he was our CO during Desert Storm and all that, and that guy, he just exuded confidence, and you knew he knew what he was doing. So I would have followed that man to hell and back. Captain Byther's to me was like Kenneth Branagh's Henry V. If you ever seen the movie, do yourself a favor. That guy was amazing in it. But Captain Byther's was the kind of guy that I would follow to hell and back, and be confident that I was going to come back. That's just how he was. Like his first day, right after the change of command ceremony, when he first came into our company, he tells us, well, we're gonna, and he sounded, the funny thing about Captain Byther's is he's kind of short, stocky, fire plug guy, and he looked a little bit like Rick Moranis and Willie from Alf, and he sounded like both of them put together. Fucking hilarious guy. And he says, well, we're not going to do normal PT anymore. We're going to play rugby for PT, because rugby is a violent sport and we're in a violent business, and if you quit on me in rugby, you'll quit on me in wartime. That ain't going to happen. So he took us out and taught. None of us knew what the hell rugby was. He takes us out for PT in the morning, and he teaches us how to play rugby. You can imagine the injuries and stuff, but it was fun as hell. He got to our company and immediately changed the whole environment of the company. You know, we knew we were going to war. That was coming. We knew it. But we also got a commander who had come from, he was a command, I think he, to my understanding, and I might be wrong about this, but I believe they said he had been the commanding officer for the Op 4 at NTC, the National Training Center, which is where, you know, we do our armored training. So, you know, he knew Soviet tactics and stuff like that or whatever. So, I mean, we just had confidence in him, and he exuded that. So he was one of those guys. And obviously my Bradley commander, Bruce Smith, the guy was amazing at estimating range. We didn't have a laser rangefinder on our Bradley or anything like that, so he had to tell me how far away the target was by guessing. You know, he used the equipment he had with him, but you know, most of it was guesswork, and he was dead on most of the time. And he was a good leader. He was fair with us. You know, he treated us good, and you know, I was very appreciative of having Bruce Smith as my Bradley commander. And then, the last but not least, First Sergeant Earl Manns. He was one of those guys that you just he kept you on your toes all the time. He kept me on my toes. And in the rear, you know, I thought he hated my guts, to be honest with you. But when we got into the desert, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. What I do remember is vividly is he made me go through the chow line a couple of times because he said I was too skinny. But the one thing that really stuck out in my head was I'd gone to one of the AT&T phone sites to call home while we were over in Saudi Arabia, and I was talking to my wife on the phone, and she told me, well, congratulations. I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, you got promoted to sergeant, because I'd been a Spec 4 E4. And I said, well, it's news to me. I haven't seen it, heard anything about it. So she says, well, I got the orders right here, and you know, and then she read the orders to me. Anyways, I get back to our area, and I'm walking from the trucks back towards my Bradley, and I get stopped by my lieutenant. And my lieutenant calls me over, and he congratulates me, and he pins new sergeant stripes on my collar. And so I'll leave there, and I go past the first sergeant's track, and he stops me dead in my tracks and yells, Haraway, get over here. So I go over, and he says, what the hell is that on your collar? I said, sergeant stripes, first sergeant. He says, where'd you get those? I said, Lieutenant Mundell put them on me, first sergeant, just a few minutes ago. He said, you let an officer promote you to NCO rank? Get that shit off your collar. So I took it off my collar, and then he turned around and actually promoted me himself, and that really stuck out in my mind. You know, nothing against Lieutenant Mundell, but having my first sergeant, who I always kind of thought hated me, pin my rank on and make such a big deal out of it was really, really freaking cool. And so, thank you, First Sergeant. And so, let's see what we got next. Let's see. List the names of old friends you served with at which locations, and recount what you remember most about them. Indicate those you are already in touch with, and those you would like to make contact with. I just kind of did that. I mean, I'm not going to go over that again because that's long-winded, but same thing. Can you recount any particular incident from your service in which you may or may not have, have been funny at the time, but still makes you laugh? Yes, I can. And Ron Whitehead will remember this well. So we're we're in the back of the track, and we're actually firing live tow missiles in Iraq, and we're basically just getting rid of the things because we're done. The war's over with, and so we're just having some fun getting rid of some munitions. Well, I've been the primary gunner for the track the entire time. Prior to us going over there, when we first transitioned over into Bradley's, I was the primary gunner. So my butt was always sitting in the gunner seat. I didn't do the loading or any of that stuff. My assistant gunner, Doug Heist, did that. I did learn how to load the tow, and I learned how to load the main gun, obviously. However, when we practiced, you didn't do it with live tows. You did it with the empty tow tubes. So there's nothing there, it's just the tube with the lugs on the end of it that you put up in the hammerhead, and you slide it in and lift the lever on it. So I knew how to load a tow, but I'd never done it with a live tow. And so Ron and I are sitting in the back of the Bradley, and on the front of the tow missile, you have a latch that you have to pull off, and this cover comes off the front of it. And so we're sitting there, and we pop that off, and I see this thing that looks like wire coming out, and I'm thinking this thing's falling apart in my hands. I didn't know what it was, and turns out that it was a rubber grommet that goes around the front of the thing to seal it. And we were calling ceasefire and calling for the master gunner to come over because we had a screwed up tow missile and everything. And at the time, we were scared to death because we thought this missile was getting ready to fall apart in our hands in the back of the Bradley. And it turns out it was just a stupid piece of rubber from the front thing, the cover of the missile. So, we had a really good laugh after the fact, and after Sergeant Jerry Boyd came over and made fun of us for not knowing what it was, and and to this day, Ron and I still get a giggle out of it when we talk about it. So that'd be pretty much the one incident that I can remember on any given day. Let's see. What profession did you follow after your military service, and what are you doing now? If you're currently serving, what is your present occupation specialty? Well, I am not currently serving. In fact, I am currently retired, period. After getting out of the military, I became a police officer. It was just the most logical path for me. So I was a police officer literally from the time I got out of the military until June of 2020, where I was forced to retire because of an injury I sustained back in 2018, where I fell while searching for a bad guy on duty. I ended up having to have surgery on my back, and the surgery didn't fix the problems that I was having, and then in January I ended up having a heart attack. So yeah, my days of being a police officer were over at that point, and it was just a matter of time. It is what it is. So I was forced retired at that point. What military associations are you a member of? None. I'm not a member of it. Other than maybe consider this an association. I'm a member of Together We Serve. In what ways has serving in the military influenced the way you have approached your life and your career? What do you miss most about your time in the service? The military forces you to grow up. It forces you to have a work ethic. it forces you to care about other people. I can go on and on and on about what it forces you to do. So it literally impacts every aspect of your life. You especially as you move up in the ranks of the military, and you start having people subordinate to you that you are responsible for their welfare. It's like having kids in some respect. You know, sometimes they don't want to do what they're supposed to do, and you have to discipline them. You have to teach them to care for themselves. You have to teach them to care for each other, and you do that by setting the example for them, just like a parent. So you take those things and you become a parent, you know, and you have your own children, and so those things, you know, they impact how you parent. They impact, you know, all the things that you've done in your military service, getting up in the morning every day, whether you wanted to or not. It just becomes part of you, and you get up and you go to work even when you're not feeling that well. You know, and you get up and you do the job to the best of your ability, because in the military they don't put up with you not doing your job to the best of ability. If you don't do your job to the best of ability in the military, somebody could die. Simple as that. You're not going to get a paper cut. Somebody could die. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want that on your conscience, and you sure as hell don't want it to be your fault because you didn't do your job to the best of your ability. And I think you carry that forward with you into, you know, the civilian world. So I think all of your military career impacts the way you do everything in life. Let's see. Based on your own experiences, what advice would you give to those who have recently joined the Army? First of all, harden up. I'm hearing, and I don't know how true it is, maybe it's just rumors, and I hope to God it is, because if it's not, then whoever's doing it, whoever's running the show, needs to get their head out of their ass. Don't make it easier for them. Don't do that. You're not doing them you're not doing them any favors by making military life and basic training easier for the soldier, the recruit. War is not easy. The bad guy don't give a flying shit about your feelings. They want to kill you, and you're going to serve in the most crappiest environments on the planet, because that's where all these other countries are. God forbid you ever have to serve in a military aspect on our own soil. All these other places we go to, they're not nice places. Bad guys ain't going to care if they yell at you. Stop whining and be adults. You get yelled at, suck it up and drive on. We did, and it didn't kill us. So harden up. Now, the other advice I'd give you is stay in. Don't do like I did, because I was stupid, and I'll be the first to tell you, I was stupid. I got out when I should have stayed in. I could have retired from the military and been very happy. Hell, I retired after I became a sergeant. You become a sergeant, you tell everybody else what to do below you. Yeah, you got to supervise and make sure they get it done, but you kick back and don't do it. They do it now. And I was stupid. I got out. And I got out for good reasons at the time, but they turned out to not be so good reasons down the road. And now, I don't have a retirement from the military. So stay in. Do the 20. Do more if you can. And get your pension. That's lifetime medical. That's a lifetime pension. And when you get out, you'll have a nest egg that you're not paying. You don't have to pay for housing or any of that stuff. Think about how much money you could have after a 20-year career in the military. You got to be in combat, join something else. Be a clerk, typist. Who cares? Point is, you're serving your country. You're doing something useful with your life, and if you stay in, I guarantee you'll be thankful when you do get done. So I would stay in. And the other part is, understand military is not for everybody. If you get in there and you realize it's just driving you crazy and you got to get out, then you know what? There are steps you can take to, even if you're not finished with your tour, you can take steps to get out of the military the proper way. Don't do something stupid. For God's sake, don't hurt yourself. There's always a tomorrow. Don't do something stupid. The suicide rate in the military is way too high. And if you start getting those kind of thoughts or anything like that, talk to somebody. Don't keep it in. Don't hide it. But if you're not willing to, if you've gone through your life already and you realize that you're not the kind of person that should be in the military, don't join to begin with. And if you are the kind of person to join the military and you think you can make it, then by all means, give it everything you got. I was 119 pounds soaking wet, and I made it in the infantry, carrying a big ass rucksack on my back and doing those 20-mile road marches and everything else. If I can do it, so can you. And I did it when they yelled at me. And last question is, in what ways has TogetherWeServe.com helped you remember your military service and the friends you served with? Well, I'll tell you. So I had a buddy in Germany who was in my company at one point in time. His name's Chris Stephen Hamrick. I called him Chris Hamrick. I didn't even know his name was Stephen. But anyways, I can't remember if his first name or his middle name's Stephen, but it doesn't matter. Hamrick was a good buddy of mine. He actually helped me get my very first off-post housing in Germany when I got there, so I could bring my wife over. And so he and I were pretty close, and we hung out a lot, at the little place there on post by the shop at. And when we were in Iraq, Chris got severely injured by one of our cluster bombs, actually. It exploded, and Chris got blown up, basically, for lack of better terms. And they evac'd him, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it was him or anything like that at the time, because he was with Battalion S2, and they had come in after we had already gone through and swept through the area and engaged the enemy and kept going. I guess for some reason or another they had gotten out of their vehicles behind us to do maybe a battle damages assessment or something, I don't know. But he got injured at that time, and then we got notified later on that we had a casualty, and it was our first casualty, so of course it was a big deal. And then we hear it was Chris, and I'm like, he would have been better off staying in our the combat instead of going to where he was. But anyways, he basically disappears off our radar. I tried to find out how he was when we got back. Nobody knew, because evidently he got sent all the way back to the States. And when we came back, we went back to Germany. So we didn't know what his status was. His wife and kids were not there anymore, and so we didn't know. And it wasn't from lack of trying. Well, I found TogetherWeServe.com and started a unit page for us, Alpha Company 66 Infantry. And I had a couple guys that showed up on the page, and I typed in a blog post that said, does anybody know the status of Chris Hammer? And I didn't come back to the page because I don't go online a whole lot, for this kind of thing. But I came on, and I just happened to check the page, and sure enough, I checked the blog thing out, and it said, well, you found me, and it was Chris. So I ended up getting in touch with him, and again, after all that time, and found out that he lost a leg, he lost a bunch of intestine and all kinds of nasty stuff, but he survived it, and he's actually doing fairly well from the way he sounded. So I was really happy, and that all came from Together We Serve, so I'm grateful. In closing, I'm just going to say that the guys I served with, whether it was in basic training or the units after basic training or the guys I went to war with, finest human beings I ever met. There was a couple of assholes in there, but for the most part, finest human beings I ever met. These guys sacrifice so much, and people don't realize it. They don't know. They don't understand what we've gone through. I have no regrets. I have no apologies to give anybody. I have nothing but admiration for those that I served under, and nothing but admiration for those who served under me. And I'm very, very grateful that we have a website like Together We Serve to vent, to let us have our say, and to help us to remember who we are and what we've done. So thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some giggles out of it, if nothing else. Take care, guys.